So, hey guys, welcome to the Kayroz podcast. Today we have a very special guest with us, Aakriti Bhargava. She is the CEO and co-founder of Wizikey, which is a SaaS platform which helps businesses identify and discover the correct and relevant journalists or social media influencers to connect or share their story with, right? If I missed anything, please add on to it.
Sure.
Yeah. And hey Aakriti, thanks again for being here on the podcast.
Hey Ayush, thank you so much for having me. And you have a great initiative going there. Congratulations on that.
Thank you very much. So, as we all know, that public relations is all about creating and maintaining a company's image in public, right? But many startups and most of the businesses don't, think it to be that relevant or it to be outdated, right? So, what are your views, or how can you explain to them that public relations, is good for them? And in short, what is PR and what it has been from the past and what is its future?
That's a great question, Ayush, there. That is really the trouble with PR. PR is not really well understood. Now you understand marketing, right? For a company, marketing is about getting customers, new customers, users, and consumers. PR is about talking to all the customers about your company. Not only customers, it also adds on to investors, future employees, current customers, prospective customers, government, other stakeholders. So there is much more to than for a company. There's just much more to than talking just to customers. They have to talk to all their stakeholders. And that is where PR comes in. In other words, it's also called external communications. And that's a very important part of any company when you're building a company for 25 years or say 50 years. If, for example, which is your ideal company?
My ideal is Elon Musk and his company Tesla and SpaceX.
Right. Now, SpaceX, he spoke about SpaceX in 2008. You can refer to his blog, right? He was communicating, he was talking to the world, the future employees, the prospective trade bodies, government, etc. And that's what PR really is about. Now, one of the vehicles for PR is media. And a lot of companies confuse that PR is just about media relations, right, and talking to the world through media. So that's, I think, that's where it is challenging, and that's where people feel that it might get dated with social media, etc. But even as media relations only, who do you trust more, Facebook, Twitter, or New York Times?
Obviously, New York Times.
Why?
Because it has gained the trust over the time, right?
Yes, every reporter is representing a publication. That publication has usually got a mandate that reporter has to check every information twice. It's like third person checking on whether this is right or not and then endorsing it, good or bad, right? So you trust more. So therefore, it's very important to understand one, media PR holistically, and secondly, not as a company demeaning any of the channels that PR uses, whether it be media, whether it be direct. You send a lot of email letters to customers just informing them that they have, there's been a bust of there's been a spam attack or something like that. So that is also part of PR. So yeah,
all the damage attack that you are talking about, right? If something bad happens, then it's responsibility of the PR to recover that image of the company, right?
Absolutely. Damage control is such an important part, right? For example, if you want to, if there is a spam attack or if there is a hack on anything of your servers, you have to go and communicate, right? You have to do damage control. You have to make sure people continue to trust you. So you're so right there. You know Maggie, right? All of us eat Maggie. Maggie is one of the most beautiful case studies of our time and how PR is the way to build trust.
Exactly. I've learned so much about PR in the recent time while researching on you, right? So other than that, the traditional PR, there was like it was like shooting the arrows in the dark, right? And emailing a lots and lots of journalists and social media influencers, and then just hoping that maybe they are the subject matter expert in your story, and as well as their interests align with your story, right?
Yes.
So a lot of time and money was wasted throughout, right? So
right, absolutely.
How is Wizikey changing that part, right? What does Wizikey actually do?
Okay, so Wizikey is really about getting the engineering mindset into an art in a field which is supposed to be arts. Okay, communication traditionally has been thought of that it is an art. We got to do the messaging, we got to do all of this, but over time, especially in the last 1 decade, we have there has been so much digitization. Everybody can be reached. So if in 2004 or 5 is when I started my career, right? So I had to go from door to door, getting to every media house and journalists who were the right people to cover a certain subject, and we talked to them, etc. But today is far more easy. Imagine doing this in a remote world wouldn't be possible. It's very easy today. I can write to all the journalists. However, one thing that has not happened to PR is that there's been no engineering mindset. Very few people choose this as a domain of interest or a field that they can build their career in. That's exactly what Wizikey is doing to PR per se. What we're doing is we're trying to see how you can become more targeted towards journalists, okay? Reach out to them in a workflow manner. And thirdly, very importantly, measure. Is there data science that can be applied to not only the campaigns that you do, which is with media, you send out certain messages to them. Not only that, but in news. And you would understand the news domain, right? It's been existing for more than 300 years. Can there be enough data there that can support how you should talk about your company? So we're doing news analytics a lot. So it's suddenly a place where there is, which nobody had imagined, that there is art, of course, but there is a lot of engineering mindset that coming into it. Big data, because news really is really big data. You can do a lot of machine learning on top of it. You can do if you know. For example, if you want to know what has happened in fintech in the past 10 years, no better way to figure out all the news that has happened on fintech and apply algorithms on top of it to figure out what's really the sentiment, what's the kind of news, what were the keywords that were most popular. So yeah, that is what Wizikey is doing right now. And I think it's just a beginning, because what we've imagined so far, we're beginning to reimagine what we started out with the vision that every company should be able to reach out to a set of reach out to the right people through and especially media and influencers to enable their business objectives, okay, which can add value to their business objectives. So as more and more of this vision is coming alive, I think we are stepping into places which we had never imagined. Yeah. And it's thanks to, of course, it's thanks to all young folks who are working at Wizikey, a lot of engineers. I've worked a lot with folks like you, and it's the fresh mindset that comes in, and it's amazing to, really build that in.
Really, I understand that, right? So basically, Wizikey what does is it's based on data-driven PR, right? Collects all the data from the past and gives you the correct option that you can do your own research and following through that which topic has been at the top at the trending for the past few years, and how they can apply that to their campaign. Companies can apply that to their campaign, right?
Yes.
So that's a great way to put it. And in each sector there comes a company that disrupts that traditional methods of that sector, right? And for PR, I guess it's Wizikey. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes, I think that's again, that's fundamentally, we did not want to disrupt the sector, but really add a lot of more value and ways of working in the sector that it will get really, get more productive, get more efficient. I think I've been in here for 16 years. And at this sweet age of 16 in this sector, I think I'm like, why are we leaving a legacy for smart people like you that you should continue? If you want to have a career in PR, you should really start and keep working on email and Excel. I mean, it doesn't just make sense to me. So that's the point where it started. It's important to know disruption is not an easy thing. It's a lot of culture shift. People have to believe in the new, and they have to really find value in the new. If you've read this book called Crossing the Chasm, There will be early adopters, people who love it for the technology that is there. But as you move to pragmatists, then we are like, okay, does this really add value? And we found that, we're getting acceptance there, largely because this whole industry is completely opaque. Okay. So people are working in silos. They continue to work on email, Excel, Word docs, and you'd be surprised that journalists also continue to work on various legacy tools. They don't have anything new. So what we want to do is create more transparency, create more entrepreneurship within this sector. It's a very slow sector, as you can imagine, right? So we want to know if there is a way to have agility built inside systems. So that's what we are trying to do. So if you have to disrupt the sector, no, you have to really find out what is really wrong at the core.
Right.
And if you actually are able to attack that problem, because that's a problem for everyone, then I think your game is set, more or less.
Yeah. You have to be in the sector, and for example, you have been in the sector for about 16 years, right? You
Yes.
know the ins and out of all of this and what is wrong with that system. So I guess you are the best person to make a change and make people believe that your software
Absolutely
is going to be the new best thing in PR, right?
we're hoping for that. Yes.
Yeah. So during your interview on CNBC, you said that your customers are demanding a lot of international reach, right? How can they benefit from it, and what are the sectors that are demanding that kind of reach?
Okay, that is a very interesting question, because you would think that something like Wizikey is new in India, but it is surprising that it is very new to the world as well. While sales has Salesforce, PR still doesn't have a full-fledged PR force, and we are really the PR force of Wizikey. Wizikey is really the PR force of PR, right? Why is something like that important, right? To the cross-border part is because when companies go global, it's a borderless world, really. Okay. Remember, do you know HUL, Hindustan Unilever? They must have taken how many years? 80 years to go global. How many years would Uber take? 4,
4,
3.
I guess. Yeah.
Okay. Companies of today, we are hardly 2 years old. We are thinking about going global right now, right away. In fact, has been thinking for about 6-7 months and taking deliberate steps in that direction. In such a globalized world, is it possible for communications and for PR to stay only in a very bordered world, in a one silo of its own? But because what really companies have to do is, when they start thinking of communications in other countries, they have to first look for an agency, set up a comms team there that will manage them, and then they collect every week over conference calls. Okay, and that's how PR is done. I think why couldn't they have a collaborative workspace, right? So that's the place and space that they're living in. I think, and that's why it was something that we thought of to begin with, but over time we've realized that our customers are pushing us in that direction very, very quickly. Yeah.
And what are the sectors that are trying to reach the world?
So think of the globalized sectors, right? Sectors that are globalizing. Which ones are that? Which ones are those, right? SaaS, IT. I mean, I'm suddenly thinking which sector is not going global, right? Apart from really consumer, and all of them need to have global comms. So all of them are picking it very, very quickly. I know 3 Indian unicorns in B2C sector who are already looking at going global or have gone global. Like, look at an urban company, right? So look at how fast Oyo went global, right? So these are already companies at very early stages of their life that they want to go global, and these are consumer companies. So every company wants to operate in a global borderless world.
So yeah, coming on to some less business related topics, right? What are the most valuable skills that you value in a person, right? Like, what is the ideal set of skills that a person can have for you, right?
Right. like I was saying before, that we're operating in a sector which we have to, which where there are some things fundamentally that we need to change, and you always begin by putting your own house in order. So
Exactly.
those are the same values that you want to. You want people who are very entrepreneurial, because the whole sector needs a lot more entrepreneurial energy. Second is that we are fast, agile. We want to change things and we want to go faster, global, right? So that's agility is something else. But third, very important thing that we look for in people, that do they believe in being transparent, being open about problems. And that's what we look for, because if we don't put the house in order and we make sure that we have a very transparent culture, then we wouldn't be able to take this to the world. Now, what does it, you say, what does transparent culture really mean, Aakriti? It doesn't make sense. No, it's an important thing. We have all our communications on, we internally use 70 plus SaaS tools.
70
It
plus.
begins there. Yes. We have all our communications internally on Slack. We have all our work going on Basecamp. All our customer care stuff going on customer success softwares like YTD, etc. Right? It, if people wouldn't embrace this transparency where everything is out in the open and they don't honor it, then we feel that it is will not do right for the company and the industry. So these are top three things that we and it's everyday work. It's not like one day you're transparent, second day you're not. So it has to go into the system. It has to be fostered by people. So that's what we look for. And yeah.
So you have to be persistent in being and having an entrepreneur mind,
Yeah.
and that energy to go on it every day, right? and and that fresh outlook to help your company, right? as well
Right.
as as well as the transparency that we just talked about, right?
Yes.
That's
Yes.
great.
And
And
the last, and this is very important and critical, is we love original thinking. And that's why we have very young people being able to understand PR and come up with their own ideas about how they would want to change it. So something they don't want to follow the herd, right? Uh,
but
in India, we're conditioned to follow the herd, and but it is good to be in this sector, good to be a black sheep, not follow the herd at all. Because if we do continue to do that, then we're going to shame. We're very good at shaming ourselves on what our culture is, right? Somehow this is, but we want to like really foster original thinking and help everyone become more inclusive of various diverse fields and build a company more diverse, inclusive, and something that can think for 50 years or 500 years vis-a-vis just the next 3 or 4 years.
yeah, originality is a topic that isn't well discussed in India. Even the parents as well as the schools and everything, colleges don't actually embrace it. We from a young age have to follow all those repetitive things, and like idols that have done engineering or something like that, right? Sharma
Right.
ji ka beta is our ideal in this case, right? So yeah, so we have to follow them. And even the entrepreneur side, like most of the businesses in India are just focusing on doing the things that have been done in the past, right? Creating that profit out of it. But
Hmm.
yeah, so but in the recent time, originality has been a major focus in most of the startups in India. There are various startups that are reaching out to the top. That's great. Yeah.
And you guys are lucky. I think in this time it's so much more globalized, and it's okay to be an entrepreneur. It's not questioned as much. So it's great timing. I've seen engineers disrupt so many parts of so many fields. And I think it's just a beautiful time we're living in, where we can bring in the new, which is probably more sustainable, more doable, encourages productivity. So I think it's a beautiful time to be in.
Exactly. As I was researching, how to, getting more and more guests onto the podcast, right? Most of them I saw were engineers, maybe any field, right? Like your other CEO, Anshul, right? Yeah, he is also an engineer, right?
Right.
And yeah, and they are in crypto, in media companies, and in other social media platforms, right? Engineers are going everywhere. So I feel like engineers are set out to be, pressed, like they didn't have the chance to fully recognize their passion and interest, right? So yeah,
Right.
this podcast is all about, helping them that there exist these type of things in the world, this type of thinking that you should embrace, right? And then you can find out your interest and all, right?
Right. Hmm.
So there's a I want to know more about your business related things, right? Your mindset in business, right? So
Right.
could you tell me what is the most rewarding thing in your career, right?
Okay. So if I want to go back all these 16 years, and in fact, even before that, my father's a businessman. He runs a small and medium enterprise in Allahabad. I come from a small town, Allahabad, and it was in growing, in years of growing up, I first got on to designing at very early stages. I think the reason why my father was very excited about every day that, building a business and valuing a customer, something that got induced very beautifully into us. If there is a 2 a.m. deadline, we had to follow it. So even at even if there may be an exam tomorrow, it doesn't matter. It is important to commit. It's important to commit and also get on time to your commitment, follow your commitment. So those are early age learnings that I had, and I feel that I was fortunate to get that. After that, I came to Delhi and I studied at SRCC, had a fair exposure in ratios, financial management. It was very exciting. But somehow I landed in MICA after that. And if somebody with a little bit of left brain, getting a fair exposure to right brain was what something that I think really changed my life. Then it was really getting into Naukri.com. And there, the one thing that I think I thank uh, the universe for is the mentorship I've gotten in those years as well as beyond that. So the turning points are many, but I think it's important to acknowledge that people who can have the ability to change your life are giving in nature, who come in at the right time, either validate your thoughts or take you in the right direction or push you in the right direction. Those become, I mean, when time and in hindsight, you're able to say, oh, this is the turning point. And I think the mentorship I've received throughout my life has been a very strong point in my career so far.
So yeah, having a great circle brings you forward and to the top, right? The people that push you forward to do and try things out really give you that inspiration that you can do that, right? You can succeed in your business and everything, right? I was very curious about a question, like what is some of the most recent challenges that you faced in your business and how did you overcome them?
I mean, everybody's faced the same challenge
Yeah.
in business over the past 1.5 years. It's been COVID. You don't. There is so much uncertainty. There are balls from the blue. You don't expect things to happen the way you had ever imagined. Nobody's ever faced a pandemic.
Right.
So that has been the biggest challenge. Uh, Overcoming it has been in many parts. First is acknowledging that, and accepting that there is a problem. There is going to be uncertainty. You got to do your best every day. There shouldn't be any FOMO, okay? Because everybody will take their own stride. Some will be slow, some will be fast during this time. And how time will really be, time will be easy on you or will it be difficult on you is something that only time can tell, right? So that's the place where it becomes easy that you do your best, right? So we took all our moves keeping that in mind. First was people, making sure that everyone is safe, everyone can come out healthy from it. And it was just not dedicating, okay, a fund is dedicated. It was about making sure that people have people to talk to. So whether internally or externally, we ensure that there is enough cushion that people are having. Second is allocating, of course, allocating funds. Second wave has been brutal. So ensuring that whether it is in the remote location in Bihar that we have to get an oximeter, we ensure that happens. Uh, it was, I mean, never thought that it would come to this, that there would be no oximeter in a remote location in Bihar. We went remote, one of the first things. In fact, the second wave has been more brutal, of course. But in the first wave, we were one of the first companies to go remote. We said if everybody can safely work out of home, it may be a 15-day thing to adjust to not seeing each other, but it's important to be safe and healthy. So second wave was more about making sure safe, healthy people, making sure of their needs, being mentally and physically healthy both. But in the first wave, it was just adjusting very quickly to the new ways of working. And that's, like I was sharing with you, that we are already a company that believes in transparency. So transparency is a system. It wasn't very hard. It was just adopting a few more new things and getting on it every day and just adapting it as nature. So in the first phase, it was a lot about ensuring that we have runway, ensuring that we adapt to the new style of working, and making sure that we are on top of the game. As soon as there are things available, as soon as the market and the economy opens up, we are ready to lodge in with full confidence. And in 2020, 2021, we did grow a 311, 315%. So that was a vindication that this went good. But when the second wave hit, it was like, okay, there is a new stance, and let's do again our best of what is required to be done here. The third wave, we're getting ready as we speak. We're also getting ready for the third wave. If it happens, we want to ensure we've not gone to office yet. We've not gone offline. We would ensure that there is a good amount of development, etc., that is done to ensure that if there is any gaps that we need to fill, right? Business should move fast. And third is to make sure people, in fact, that is always our first, is that people should always be safe and healthy, and whatever we can do for them.
The company is for the people, right? The people that
People
work in
are
it, right?
Yes.
Yes. So like in the first wave, we were all fearful, like what's going to happen. We didn't know anything about it. And and after that, we had a chance to regroup and attempt in bettering ourselves, right, for the next wave or the third wave, right? And
Right.
as for the second wave, it's been a lot of damage to the society, right? A lot of businesses have been facing a lot of trouble. But since you just told me that implementing technology into your business help you grow during these times also, right? And one question that I'm really, really curious about, that what do you wish you would have known as a college student?
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good one and close to my heart. I think like I said, it was good to get mentorship throughout my career life. If I had known that, I would have actively sought it.
Right.
It happened naturally. And there are still areas I think I could have done better by not putting so much pressure on my own self and saying that I need to do this, I need to learn it by myself. Learning from others' experience is a learning in itself. Okay.
Right.
So it requires, as an entrepreneur, you have to be shameless. Go ahead, ask. If people are able to help you, gratitude is the best gift that you can give to them. Okay, so that is mentorship is something that everyone should seek out in whatever fields you're having problem with. So that's one. And second is, I used to be a reader in college, and a lot of fiction work I had read. However, there's a tendency in colleges to really underplay textbooks. Because our textbooks are boring, right? The way they are, the way everything is written, it just looks very, very boring, and there is a tendency to underplay. I think you can learn a lot from books because that's experience of others. Literally, page by page, they put in that hard work to transfer their learnings. And if you can read enough books, that really solves for it. But one question that comes to everyone is, what book should I read? When should I read? Pick a certain book. And so the answer is it came to me only about 4 or 5 years back, when one of my mentors, he said that, before, it was 3 days before I had to meet him. And he said, before coming to this meeting, please read this book and come. I was like, 3 days, इतनी जल्दी कौन किताब पढ़ता है? 400 पेजेस की किताब है, मतलब एक्सपेक्टेशन सही है, अभी आप बोल रहे हैं तो कर लेते हैं. So I read through that book and it was good. It was a fun read. It was a lot of experiences, and I think it's one of the best books to read in understanding how businesses should be built. It's called The Ultimate Question.
The Ultimate Question.
The Ultimate Question. And I read it and went. And just that conversation was far more mature because I had the learning of the book. Otherwise, I would have not understood what he really was saying. So I think if you have a question in your mind, you can go ahead and pick a book that Amazon tells you that will answer it. Again, if I search for how to build HR, there will be some books that will come. How to build communication, some books will be recommended by Amazon. There are like 4 or 5 stars, and pick a book and read. That's where it starts. I also think that there is a lot of fun in reading fiction books, and I had left it in between, and I said that, fiction, what will I learn? But it's a good way to focus, and learning to focus every day. Fiction makes you really, okay, I need to read this now here. So yeah.
Right, that's very great advice that you're given right now. During the lockdown and our colleges being closed, right? Most of our, me as well, I haven't visited my colleges and talked to the seniors, right? I haven't got that exposure that you just talked about, the mentorship and the guidance from all the seniors, right? So first year just went like this, plain, okay. So
Okay.
most of the people don't understand, like my classmates don't understand that. I'm not saying that I fully do, but yeah, they need to reach out more to the seniors and more to their seniors who have accomplished something, and ask them to how should they follow in their footsteps, right? That's a great thing that you just told me about, right? And the second one is reading. I also started from reading fiction books, right? And then I transferred into some self-help book, and other than that, I've been reading a lot of books recently. My pace is very slow, to be to be honest. Yeah, there are some books like how to make friends and influence people. That is a good read. Like
Right.
the title is very sketchy, but yeah, that's a good read. And other than that, I'm listening to the audiobook of Elon Musk's autobiography, right? Biography.
Right.
And it's really great to see how they put all their lives wisdom into that book, right? And
Right.
how their entrepreneurship journey and then the challenges that they faced, what their mindset was, they put all of that into the book. Some other
It's up
question.
to you can set your pace according to. Don't worry about. I usually it's not about my pace is slow or people get worried about those things. You've given a great example there. You can always go to audiobooks. You can start with Blinkist. I started getting back my pace with Blinkist because I said, okay, let's do some summaries and then I will get back to picking up those books. One of my favorite books and Dimple's favorite book is also Multipliers. So yeah, I think you can choose your way of how you get back to it, and everybody's way is their own unique way. So yeah, audiobooks are great. Yeah,
Audiobooks are really great. You just put the headphones on, go on a walk, and just listen to all
yes,
that they have to say, right? PR is very good for businesses, like big businesses. They have that expanding power, right? Their spending power and all that context that they have, that they can start a very great PR campaign, right? But what about the small startups and the early stage startups? Like, how can PR help them, right?
Mhm.
And how can Wizikey help them?
Okay, so first is, should early stage startups practice PR?
Right.
The answer is yes. If you want to speak to all other audiences, stakeholders to your business, apart from your customers, the only way to do is PR. Which means, like, if you want to speak to your future employees, you're building a business. Ayush, I read about that. And if you want to reach out to everybody who's a plant lover, how would you go about it? Right?
Right.
That's only through PR if you've got to reach out to more stakeholders than just your customers. Second is, it is to be done as a discipline. It cannot be done in sports. So there has to be seriousness about it. And early stage companies, they tend to focus a lot on top line only, looking at metrics, customers, users, consumers. They have to focus on one more thing, which is building trust. Okay, this cannot, and building trust is not an overnight game. It would have to be done as a discipline over years. So yes, they should all practice PR. How should they go about it? It's pretty simple. You want to tell the world who are you and what are you really about and why you exist. Right. That is practically in our lingo, we call it messaging, but it's really the core of the business. Why do you exist? Who are you? What are you doing in this world and why do you exist? If you've gotten that in a document, you got to keep talking about the world, about the progress you've made in each of these aspects. What are you doing? Why are you doing something and how much progress have you made in that? Those are practically the numbers that we see on top line and bottom line, right? So it's really the balance sheets, and because I did study finance a little and commerce a lot, I do feel that the numbers on balance sheet and P&L really talk about what the company really is. If you can't translate that into stories, you will never be able to build that intangible asset that is true to a company, which is credibility, trust, and integrity. So that's something all companies should do. How can Wizikey help them? Wizikey is a place where they can do it without having much of the tediousness that comes to doing PR. It is, you can get in there, you can search based on keywords, you can find journalists and reach out to all those people who are writing about the space that you are in. So if they get interested, they'll write about you. But it has to be done like a business development thing. Like customers over time, when they say, oh, this product is really going to help me and I'm going to buy it. Similarly, a journalist will write a story when he thinks that reader is really interested. So that's how it is supposed to be done. It cannot be imagined at the beginning that I will get a story tomorrow based on what I said today. It has to be done step by step, bit by bit, and built over time.
Yeah, all the startups can start doing PR from an early stage and build the trust over time, as well as get out in their world and get their story out in their world, right?
Right.
They have to tell the world that they exist and why are they focusing on their product, and how it can help the world change, right? So yeah, that's a very great advice for young startups. So that was a very fun and interesting conversation that we had, right? We talked all about PR, its future and its parts, right? And how young startups can benefit from it and how should you follow PR, right? And we talked all about Aakriti's mindset and what skills she values the most, right? So, and as for all of the startups that are listening to us right now, if you are intrigued by the concept of PR and want to know more about it, right, you can check out Wizikey's website, right, wizikey.com. You can check this out. And Aakriti, if they have any questions, right, regarding PR and other things, where can they contact you?
They can absolutely contact me on LinkedIn. They can. I have open messages. I think everybody's reaching out to me there, and I think beyond that, I am available at aakriti@wizikey.com.
So as always, thank you for watching, and all those links are pinned down below. So thank you, Aakriti, for being here on the podcast. Any closing thoughts?
All I want to say is go after original thinking, original storytelling, tell your story to the world, and be shameless in being the best of yourself.
With that, we take our leave, and please make sure to hit the subscribe button and follow us on Instagram at Kayroz Podcast. And you can also subscribe to our weekly newsletter at kayroz.in.